I did want to get that revenge for my grandma because in those times, we never got that revenge or that day of reckoning. So for me, writing this is more like, okay, this is my world. I can make happen whatever I want it to happen. And I want us to get some revenge here.
What's good? I'm Nikisha Elise Williams, and this is Black and Published, bringing you the journeys of writers, poets, playwrights, and storytellers of all kinds. Today's guest is Tracy Cross, author of the horror novella Rootwork, a story she said almost didn't get published.
The owner of the company said, look, I'm sorry. I have to shut the whole publishing place down. So I won't be publishing your book. I'm sorry. So I was like, oh my God. And everyone's like, well, it's not your fault. But there was something inside of me that just said, like, you have failed.
Despite her perceived failure, Rootwork is here, the first installment in Tracy's Conjure series. She explains how the hoodoo rituals she grew up with helped shape her entire life. Plus, how her writing evolved from knockoff comic strips to telling the stories of her family through horror. And the root working reason she won't eat anybody's tomato sauce, including your grandma's spaghetti. That and more when Black and Published continues. All right, Tracy, so tell me, when did you know that you were a writer?
I would say when I was about 10, 12, something like that, I had started reading comic books, and which was like my mom called them funny pages. And I said, oh, comic books, like any child, comic books are easy to do. I can do it. So I thought I could like write comic books. And I wrote these atrocious comics where when I was younger, Fame, the TV show was really big. So I wrote this comic book and it was supposed to be like Fame, but it was like, this comic book is modeled on the TV show Fame, but it's called like Frame. And then like everybody's name was like a play on the names of episodes. Like this is supposed to be Coco and she's the singer, but actually this girl's name is Noko. And it was just like Leroy and everybody. And I just realized how idiotic is this when I got older. So I was still at that age where I didn't understand sex. So I wrote this book called The Secret Affair. And to me, sex was basically going into a bedroom and closing the door and then coming back out. And so I was taking ballet lessons and the girl saw me writing. And she's like, oh, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm writing this book, girl. It's called The Secret Affair. And it's got like sex and stuff. And Dynasty was really big. So I thought that I could write this book. And all the characters, it would be like Tad and so went into the bedroom and then they came out. And they were like, and we just had sex. And the girls in my ballet class were like, oh my God, they had sex. Oh my God. Like they had the whole same concept of like, you go in the bedroom, close the door, and that's how sex happens, which was hilarious. Because I'm just like, here we are, like practicing in our point shoes, and we're all getting the same impression of like, they went in the bedroom and closed the door, girl. Oh man, they had so much sex. How long were they in there? Like a day or two? Like, yes, they were in there for 3 hours. What? So it just it just evolved from there to like me trying to find my voice and what did I like, what didn't I like, and it just evolved, and now here we are, like let's just say many years later.
Oh my
But yeah,
God.
3 hours, closing the door for 3 hours.
So you went from trying to write comic books that were knockoffs of TV shows to
Hmm.
writing actual books that were knockoffs of soap operas with sex in them at 12. I am, I don't even know where to go, but I will share a story. I remember, I think I was, I don't know if I was 12 yet. I think I might have been 11. And the movie Soul Food had just come out. Like, I don't know if people remember from back in the day when there was a popular black movie, they'd make it into a
Mm,
book, right?
yes.
And so then I had the book Soul Food, and we had to do book reports, and I went to Catholic school. And so I was so proud of my book report on Soul Food because it had the word sex in it. I was like, oh, there it is, right there, right there, right there. Yeah. I did read the book
Yeah,
even though I'd
it's just
already
like
seen the movie. But yeah, that's funny.
the word sex. It's just like, look, girl, I am living dangerously. Sex is in my book report. Check it out.
But by that, I think in that same class, I think I did another book report on this book called 47th Street Black that was set in Chicago in like the late 40s, maybe early 50s. And
Hmm.
there's a part in the book where this one guy keeps getting called an uppity nigger, and I didn't know what nigga meant. And so I wrote it in my book report,
Oh,
and my mom read it before I turned it. She's like, "You can't say that. You can't say
oh no.
that."
My God, no.
And now we
I
are
will tell you that my grandparents, I thought they were speaking in code once. And I think my grandmother was just like, yeah, them Ofays at it again. And I was like, what is an Ofay? What is, and it was one of those things where she said it to like my granddad. And I was like, what is that? And, I asked my sister, Terry, and she's like, I don't know. Let's figure this out. And I think it was like that we went a roundabout way of asking our dad, who was much more liberal than our mother. And he was just like, oh, yeah, that's just another way to say white people. And I'm like, oh, grandma's racist. Oh my God. And my dad's like, yeah, grandma's not racist. She's not racist. Like, she was just saying it, like, because, she didn't want you guys to understand what she was talking about. I'm just like, oh my God, grandma's racist. I can't believe it. So, yeah, it's just things that we don't know. And the thing is, like, these little code words are going to get lost as we get older because this whole generation that used those words have begun to be deceased, so these words are like forgotten, like old native languages and things like that. It's pretty sad.
Well, it doesn't have to if you include them in the writing so that we can get back to the subject that we were on.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
once you got older and realized, like most people do, looking back on their childhood notebooks, that there was nothing there that you could use remotely to write a book, when did you begin to take the craft of writing seriously? How did it carry with you through your maturation?
Well, the thing was, I did not have a lot of friends when I was younger. So I would like write imaginary worlds of places where I wanted to be, or people that I wanted to be. So as I like moved through high school, I didn't take it as seriously. It was just kind of one of those things where you write off a little story on the back burner and you just leave it there, and I was just a loner. And then I just started reading and consuming so many books. And I think the one most pivotal book was Richard Matheson, who worked on the Twilight Zone. And I read like his short stories. And I was like, okay, hold up, I can do this. And I think I want to say it was like maybe 11th grade. I started really trying to take it seriously and writing. You imitate the writers that you like the most. And so I liked him and Charles Beaumont, and I started imitating them. And then I went to college, and then I had kids, and everything just kind of went back burner. Once you start having kids, your life is not your own. You become so and so's mommy for so long. And it wasn't until I would say like in my late 30s that I picked up and I said, I can really jump back into this and start doing it seriously, as opposed to just like one-offs or journal writing. So I would say it's almost like I've always been a writer, but I took it super seriously after my kids were a little older and I had more free time. And then I was just like, okay, now let me sit down and read books about craft and what I need to do. And, let me go back to school to understand the craft of writing, which I did, and now I've taken it so seriously. It's like ridiculous.
So you said you went back to school. Did you go get a formal MFA or did you just take like go to writing workshops and classes and one-offs like that?
So I am in the process of finishing my Bachelor of Arts in Creative Writing and Psychology.
Mm.
And then I am waiting to hear back from an MFA program. So I hopefully will be starting in January of next year because I just feel like there's so much more I can learn, even though people, oh, you've had so many stories published and you had this book and that's the purpose of the MFA. And I'm like, no, I feel like I have questions. There's other things that I want to learn and there's other things that I want to do. So, and there's other genres I want to explore. I've explored cyberpunk and horror, but why not write a YA book? What you'll never see me write is a romance novel, though. I'm not that person.
I love that this is happening in real time for you. And you have a 3-book deal, and the first of the trilogy is going to be out when this interview airs. But I know you had some bumps in the road into getting this book, Root Work, out. So let's talk about the publication process and what really went down.
COVID. That's what really went down. It destroyed everybody. It did us all dirty. COVID did us all wrong. But I'm a member of the Horror Writers Association, and they had a talk to an agent kind of thing. So there were like 4 or 5 agents, and basically you go through and you pick out the agents that you want to talk to, the top 3 agents. So I picked out 3 agents that I wanted to talk to. This was like a couple of years ago. And, I did my research, I did my due diligence, and I said, okay, oh, let me back up. So I had sent the first 10 pages off after I had started editing the book, and I sent it to an agent, and I did not think anything would become of it. I was like, okay, this is like your practice run, Tracy, just send it off. Well, lo and behold, she read that and she got back to me so fast that I didn't have the end of the book written. And she was like, send me the whole manuscript. And I was like, like this was not supposed to happen. Like normally agents take like a year. Sweetheart, you took like 6 weeks. What are you doing? So then I had to like cut the world off and bang out this ending, stressed all to death. And she was like, okay, cool. Thank you for sending this. I really, really love it. And I'm looking forward to, trying to work on a deal with you to represent it. In the interim, the horror writers thing happened. And so I spoke to like several people there, several agents there, and Omnium Gatherum reached out and they were a very small press, a horror press, and they wanted to publish the book. So I said, okay, that's great. So I had to let the other agent know that I have this deal with Omnium Gatherum. They were so cool about it. And they were like, look, keep me in mind for your next project. If you have another project, be sure to send it to me. But Omnium Gatherum, we did all the things. We worked on it and worked on it and worked on it. We were ready to go to press. And then it came time for StokerCon this past May. And I said, okay, so we're going to have this party at StokerCon, right? And we're going to have the release there. And the owner of the company said, look, I'm sorry, but I just didn't make money during COVID. I have to shut the whole publishing place down. I got to shut it down. So I won't be publishing your book. I'm sorry. So I was like, oh my God. And, everyone's like, well, it's not your fault. But there was something inside of me that just said, like, you have failed, and I know it's not my fault, but when you push yourself so hard, you just like, you failed. So I said, all right. And she said, I'll give you like some names of some other people that may be interested in publishing it. And they were like very interesting people, is what I'll say. So I did decide to go with one press, but I was like, I had like 4 different contracts in front of me. And there was a woman who I love dearly, and I still work with her. And her name is Lisa Pegram. And she was like, I recruit people for my book publishing. I have a company, I work with a company, and I want to publish your book. And I'm like, what? So I was ready to go with like this black publisher, and I was just super excited. And then there was another woman that kind of simultaneously started following me on Twitter and Instagram, and her name is Sadie Hartman, Mother Horror, who's very popular in the horror community. And they had a contest, and it was for a novella. So I said, I'm not going to submit root work. I'm going to leave that for, the other contracts that I'm looking at. I'm going to submit the sequel to root work. So I submitted the sequel, didn't win. But then she emailed me aside and she said, listen, let's talk about this second novella. I really want this novella. Sadie was just so like, let me just talk to you. Let's just have a Zoom meeting. And I'm sitting there with like the straightest face in the history of straight faces. And you could see her about to burst out of her skin. And she's just like bubbling underneath the surface. And I said, well, send me the contract. So Rob, her partner, was like, look, this is the contract. They went over the contract piece by piece. And I said, oh, hey, this is the second book in the series. And she goes, what? And I said, yeah, this is the second book. And she goes, well, where's the first book? And I said, oh, it never got published. I'm gathering went under. So I'm looking for a publisher for that one. And then she just leans into the screen and she's like, send me the first book. So I sent her the first book. And she's like, I'll get back to you. Like, I'll give me like a week or two. I'll get back to you. Oh, no. Sis got back to me in 2 days. And she was like, I want this book. I want this one. And I'm like, holy crap. I went from like famine to feast. Like I got this 2 book deal happening. So I signed with Dark Heart Publishing, which is Mother Horror's new publishing company. So I had to like, very politely send like no's to all the other contracts that I had. And everyone was just so supportive and so awesome and interesting that it was just amazing. So that was my whole publishing thing. So it's like, don't give up, but conversely, don't take the first offer that comes along because it's not always the best. So I always look for the options and never say yes super quickly.
Well, first things first. Hey, Mother Horror. I don't really do horror. I did read your book, but like I'm slowly getting into horror. Blame Jordan Peele. I've now seen Get Out, Us, and Nope. So I'm slowly getting there. I loved Root Work though, and with that fantabulous story about like this journey to publication with the drama of the company going under to getting this deal with Mother Horror herself, let's get to the reading part of this interview. So if you would read a little something from Root Work, introduce us to these characters, and then we can talk about all of the things happening in the book. Black and Published family, it's time for the reading. Root Work is a horror novella set in the swamps of Louisiana, where 3 sisters, Anne, Pee-wee, and Betty, spend the summer with their aunt, who teaches them about hoodoo. However, their summer lesson soon has practical application as the girls suffer loss, experience grief, and exact revenge for themselves and their family. Here's Tracy.
So the sisters in Root Work, Anne, Pee-wee, and Betty, spend the summer with their aunt Teddy, who's a conjure woman or a root worker. And I wanted to give you something that was almost like a day in a life. So this is the part that I'm going to share. Teddy made them sit in the bedroom with the curtain pulled closed. The room was dim and hot without a hint of a breeze. Only one of you gets to be the assistant today, Teddy said. On account of what? Pee-wee asked. On account of I don't need everybody knowing about y'all. Then they're going to come to your house and ask you to cast, and y'all can't do that. Teddy wrapped a black scarf around her head, pulling up the front, making it look regal as she fastened it in the back. Who's it going to be? Teddy took 3 matchsticks from the box in her pocket, broke one of them in half, then held the 3 sticks in her closed fist in such a way that they couldn't tell which one was shorter. Choose, she said. Anne and Betty drew long matches. Pee-wee got the broken off one. Short straw wins today, Teddy said. Pee-wee, let's get you dressed. She grabbed Pee-wee off the bed before barking orders at Anne and Betty. Betty, you want to cast, right? Write this down and get it all together for me before she get here. Is a bottle in the kitchen with the label Sinner's Heart Dirt. That dirt come from a grave over a sinner's heart. Anyway, get that bottle and get that bottle of sulfur and the bottle of red pepper. Tie a scarf around your face. You don't want to inhale none of this. I call it from the well to the grave. Betty jumped up and followed instructions, clanking around in the kitchen. And I got two pots out back. One got black cat bone in it, and the other got some toads boiled down. I need you to put some grease in the pot with the toads, mix it good, then put it in a jar and bring it up to the kitchen. What's it for? And tossed an apron outside the window. I think somebody put something on this gal coming. She got to use it for a few days to get that spell off of her. Now, y'all know some spells, and don't forget to write it in the book, okay? Teddy busily wrapped some fabric around Pee Wee. She fixed her hair under a scarf and made her take her shoes off. Pee Wee, check the change bucket by the door. Take all the money out and put it where I showed you. Pee Wee nodded and ran to the door. Teddy walked out onto the porch and lit a cigarette. She coming. I see her not far from here. Can you really see her? Pee Wee asked. I got a piece of something of hers. If I can focus, I can see her coming. It's that gift of being a real hoodoo priestess. Them fake ones don't have the vision. That's how you know. Pee Wee made a mental note and filed it away. Teddy walked into the living room with the woman who didn't look very old. Stella, what's the problem? Teddy's soothing voice asked. Well, I like Cotton, but his ma don't like me, Stella, the client said. I mean, I works hard, you know. I try to help him with the cooking and stuff, but no matter. It ain't no good for him. Stella cried into her handkerchief. And this other boy, Delphonse, what did he do? I think he had somebody put a spell on me because all this ain't started till I was trying to see Cotton. It's like all my luck changed or something. I hear you's the best, Miss Teddy. Help me, please. Pee Wee hid on the other side of the curtain and watched Teddy motion her head towards the porch. Stella jumped up and walked over to the bucket and dropped some money in before she sat again and asked, can you help me? Honey, I's the best there is. Now you got that swatch of that dress from Miss Lady? Cotton's farm? Yeah, right here. She reached into a pocket and pulled out a folded blue, powder blue cloth and set it on a table. She let her fingers linger on the cloth for longer than it should. Is you sure this is gonna work? I's the best. Trust me and trust the root work. Teddy beckoned Pee Wee forward to take the cloth. Give this to Betty and tell her to sprinkle the stuff inside and seal it with a pretty bow. Then bring out that jar of grease. That's my niece Taddy. She gonna make sure everything all right. Now you this gotta listen to me and do what I say for this to work. Teddy set a jar of the clear, greasy substance on the table. It was still warm and smelled like fresh earth and something else. Stella wore rose oil, and it was not blending well with the greasy toad mix. Take a dab a day for 9 days, rub it on your arms, and wait till after the 10th day. Then you go see Cotton. Pee Wee walked in with a small powder blue bag. Meanwhile, drop this in the well on the property. I know Cotton don't like to drink from one of the wells on his mama's property. It's by the horses. Drop this in there. Don't let nobody drink from it for 2 hours. She'll be dead soon enough, and then the spell wear off on the bag. You understand? Stella looked at the bottle and the cloth on the table, tears streaming down her cheeks. I understand. Ma's gone and he gonna love me like he should. Teddy grabbed Stella's wrist. Be sure this is what you want, Stella. You don't know how powerful love spells can be. He gonna love you to the ends of the world. Stella sniffed and nodded her head. Pee Wee brought out a large cloth and wrapped everything up in it. She gave the cloth to Stella. Thank you, Stella said. And thank you, Teddy, so much. Stella thanked Teddy several more times on the way to the door. How will we know if it worked? Pee Wee asked. She come back if it don't work. Trust me, it'll work, Teddy smiled. And y'all did real good not to have no home training. She took $1 Stella had left in the bucket. I split this off with the three of y'all. Pee Wee's math told her they were all getting 33 cents each. That left 1 penny remaining, and she didn't mind keeping it for herself.
Thank you. So I remember when we initially scheduled this interview, you were talking about how, you didn't grow up like other people did, and you realized that later on. I think you mentioned the incident of like being at someone's house and there was a cup of water on like the nightstand, and you had
Mm-hmm.
asked for a cup and they said, well, there's water right there. And he's like, oh no, that's a spirit water. I can't drink that.
Mm-hmm.
How much of those conjuring hoodoo rituals did you grow up with that helped inform the text of root work?
I grew up with so many things. that people get voodoo and hoodoo confused. And so, like, I always have to say, hoodoo is kind of like earth magic. Voodoo has like a bunch of different gods and such. But I grew up with so many things, and it was like my mother would casually like say things to us. And, I realized that everybody's mother didn't talk like this. Like one day she was making spaghetti and she was like, "You know how you keep a man, don't you?" And I'm like 13. I'm not thinking about, no man, but I'm like, what, mom? And she's like, "I'm telling you. So you take like your first menses, like the first blood from your menses." And I'm thinking, your menses, what's that? But then she was like, you take the first couple of drops of your menses on your first day, and you put it in like a spaghetti sauce or some red sauce, and you serve it to whoever it is that you love, and they'll love you like forever. And my little 13-year-old brain is like, what? What? And I mean, there was like a serious 10-minute pause, I want to say it felt like, between my mother saying this as she's putting the spaghetti on the plates for us to eat for dinner. And me and my sister are looking at each other like, what the hell? And then I'm like, did you do this to dad? And she just was like, time to eat. And she would just say it like just very flat, like time to eat. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, is mom gonna make us love her forever? Like, if we eat the spaghetti, like, what is happening? Like, it was like little things like this that were kind of inserted in like your every day, not just like a little bit. It's like every day. So, it's like I'm sweeping the floor and I'm like, oh no, I swept over my feet. And my mom just grabbed some salt and she started throwing it over my shoulder. I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, well, you swept over your feet. That's a bad sign. Devil gonna get you. And da, 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 da. I'm like, what the hell? I'm what? What? And I'm just like, I'm just trying to clean the kitchen, mom. So it's like you have that with your mother, and then you have like your great aunts around you doing all of this. And I was just like, oh my God. Like it was almost like when I got older and I realized when I was doing this to my kids that I was just like, you know what? I really need to kind of record this because no one will ever remember. And the B side of this was no one really believed this. What? Your mother did not put no blood in those spaghetti. I'm like, trust me, you don't know. Okay. This is why I don't eat nobody's spaghetti or pasta sauce, or no matter where I go, they'll be like, "Oh, you want some red sauce?" No, 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 no. There are certain things that I won't eat, and I'll say like I'm allergic to tomatoes. Really? Yes, I am so allergic to tomatoes. Oh, so tomatoes in your salad? I'm not playing with no tomatoes in my salad. I ain't no, no, because I don't know what you done did in your garden.
Oh,
You probably got
Jesus.
like a little hoodoo doll up in the tomato patch.
I am going to ask that are your parents still together?
No. So
Okay.
maybe it wasn't the spaghetti sauce.
Maybe it wasn't the spaghetti sauce. Um, you did make it a point to distinguish between hoodoo and voodoo. You say in the book, I can believe in Jesus and God. This ain't voodoo. Hoodoo got one God, voodoo don't. Why did you want to
Correct.
discuss both horror in context to these ritual practices that you call earth magic?
Um, wow, sis, you really got me stumped here. Okay. So I don't want to offend anyone. Um, so I have to like be very delicate with how I dance around this answer. So for some of us, this is normal, right? Like living with like these kind of things that happen. But for some of us, like lately I've been thinking about the other. So for us, this is normal, but there will always be an other, and the other will always be afraid of what they don't know.
Mm.
So you have so many people that hear hoodoo okay? But then they hear the word voodoo. So even though I'm saying it with an H, they hear the V and they're just like, so, you gonna go around cutting chicken heads off and dancing in blood and angel hearting and all of this. And I'm like, no, that's a whole different ball of wax. This is just kind of earth magic, but nevertheless, it still does instill fear because what is fear? It's just a you don't understand or you don't know the unknown factor, the X. And so many people don't understand hoodoo that I think that because I am a horror writer, I kind of took the story into a horror realm by using hoodoo because I wanted it literally, I just wanted to scare a whole bunch of white people. But I'm not supposed to say that. But I just really wanted it's like body horror, like revenge, because it's based on something that actually the root work is based on something that actually happened to my grandmother. But there was never the revenge aspect there. So I wanted to incorporate that little bit of revenge in hoodoo for her, the justice that she never got and the justice that her family never got.
Okay, I didn't know that part. So, like, you saw my whole face was like, wait,
I
what?
know, I know. I'm just like, breathe, breathe, it's okay.
So we're gonna have this conversation that may be edited out, because there's a murder that takes place in the book. So was that the
Yeah.
revenge aspect that you were trying to incorporate into the fiction that didn't happen in real life?
So no, the murder happened. That
Yes,
is a direct quote.
I mean the
The
revenge after the
revenge
yeah,
after that is what is
when
that
that
never
man got his
happened.
okay, because I was
Yes.
like, it was all fun and games with the root work and the hoodoo till that man got his tongue cut out, and then we were in a
Yes.
whole nother level of thing.
But I did want to get that revenge for my grandma because I saw the look on her face when she was telling me the story,
Hmm.
and I felt the hurt. It touched me on another level. But then it also, conversely, I was like, well, how did you feel? And, da, da, da. And she was like, Tracy, I was two. I'm just telling you, as it was told to me. But it's just that, in those times, we never got that revenge or that day of reckoning that we always wanted. Like we never got our 40 acres. We never got our mule. So for me, writing this is more like, okay, this is where we gonna get some revenge. This is my world. I can make happen however or whatever I want it to happen. And I want us to get some revenge here. And here comes the part that you may want to edit out, but the book that they make with that sheriff's body appears in the other two Conjure books that I'm working on.
I want to get to the question about the book because that was one of my questions for you. Towards the end on page 143, you say, but as long as you got this book, we can all be legendary. So, do you believe that in passing down family history, rituals, root work, spiritual practices, all that kind of stuff, do you think that that is where our legacies begin to outlast our lives?
Yes, because when people stop talking about you and when your name is not whispered on the wind or your tales are forgotten, then it's just dead. It's like how you have people that try to record old Native American languages and they go and they try to find these Native Americans that can speak this language. But once when they stop saying it, the language is dead. So
Mm.
as long as we have a legacy, as long as like my daughter's like, mom, my mom told me not to drink water that was left out overnight, it'll keep it alive and it'll keep it moving forward. And it's something from our past that, we should kind of recognize this and we can hang on to it. I mean, I think that when people stop saying your name, that's it. And when people stop saying like the things, your legacy or things like this. So even when I'm gone, I will have this piece of work that is out here in the world that is sharing something that was told to me by someone who is now not with us anymore.
Mm.
So that's my whole point of this.
That is beautiful. So I normally ask my writers, what do they want readers to get out of their books? But I want to ask you, what do you want your ancestors to get out of your books?
That I told the story right.
Mm.
If I can make my mother smile by telling the story, then I have won everything. If I can make my entire mother's family just, Tracy did it. She did a really great job. If I get that pat on the back, that's bigger than anything. Now, of course, having my book made into a TV show would be awesome, but it's that internal satisfaction. Like every step of the way, I just was seeking approval from my mom. Like, what do you think of this part? And what do you think of this? And how did this person look? And then I read an excerpt on another program. And the first thing I did was I called her up and I'm like, did you listen? And she's like, yeah, I listened. And I'm like, did you like it? But did you like it? And she's like, oh, I loved it. And I'm like, I just want to make you happy, mom. Like, I just want, like that approval that I didn't mess this up. So that's what I want. I don't want to be haunted by any of my ancestors. Like, you know, Tracy, you screwed up. And they're like touching me in my sleep. I don't want that. Tracy doesn't need that because I already have a hard enough time sleeping, but I just want to make them happy. If they come to me and it's glowing in my room and I see these wonderful glowing dots, I'll be so ecstatic. But if I see some like little something shaking my bed, I am running out the house and everyone is on their own.
Okay, I want to switch to our speed round and our game before we go for the afternoon. What is your favorite book?
I Am Legend by Richard Matheson.
Who is your favorite author?
Believe it or not, Shirley Jackson.
What is the difference between horror and like gore and like just the whole different genres of scariness?
Gore is bloody. With horror, you have so many different parts. Like you have psychological horror, you have body horror, you have all of these different formats of horror. So horror is something that like you read and you could be like walking down the street like 3 weeks after you read a book and get scared to death thinking about what you read. Horror, it's just the anticipation of that fear.
So, by that same token, what makes you afraid?
I never really go into religious things, but I fear no man. I fear nothing but God.
Mm.
That's all I'm afraid of. Because anything else I can handle. I know with his strength I can handle it. If like something happened to my kids, I wouldn't even be afraid. I would just be angry, which I guess that would probably make me more of a sociopath, which is frightening. But I am just not afraid of much of anything.
Mm. Who is your favorite artist?
Girl, Prince. Oh God, yes, Prince. I have like all the bootlegs, everything,
But why the bootlegs?
because that's okay. I could talk about Prince like forever. But let me just say this. When Prince found Jesus, it was like all dirty songs were just off the record. You were just like, oh, he was coming back when he did Black Sweat. And you just saw that little spark of like Prince. And you were just like, oh, he's back. He's back. But then he never did. Like I think the Super Bowl performance, he did that little move with his guitar, and I'm just like, oh, see the dirty man, and he's still in there. Dirty Prince is still in there. Come on out, baby, come on out. But it's that whole Jehovah's Witness Prince that I'm just like, that's nice. Erotic City.
I did love Black Sweat, and then the song that he had on Janelle Monáe's Electric Lady. I love that song too. I don't remember the name of it, but I did love it. So I want to switch to my game, rewriting the classics. Name one book you wished you would have written.
Interview with the Vampire or Blood Sun by Richard Matheson, which is the best story about a child wanting to be a vampire that you could ever read. If
Hmm.
you can find that story, it's like maybe 6 pages long, but that man, he puts so much into it, and you're just like, wow. Also, Cackle by Rachel Harrison. If I could have written that book, but it would have to be with my sister Terry. because I had her read it and she just was so like, oh my God, this woman. Oh my God. So we would take all of those, oh my God, this woman parts out and just make the chick like just even more lethal.
Name one book where you want to change the ending, and how would you do it?
Oh Girl, Night Circus by Aaron Morgenstern. My God. That book, I hated that ending so much. I was just like, what the hell is happening? Like, you have a book where the circus comes to town at night and you lay it out and you lay it out. You got rooms, you got a girl that can change her clothes by just running her hands down her body. And then she has like this ombre dress on. You got dueling magicians, you got a love story. And then you got this Asian character that just kind of pops up and screws everything up. And she's like, well, you're not going to be together. And I'm just like, what? What? Oh, first of all, I would put so many black people in a night circus, it would be ridiculous. Then it would just be like, you know, the Universal Circus comes to town at night. They got barbecue ribs and they got this girl, just, it's
Which is
like they got beef
surprising.
ribs, no pork.
Final question for Rewriting the Classics. Name a book that you think is overrated and why.
Oh my God. I don't even like want to have the wrath of my sister on me, but like Little Women, anything by Jane Austen, it's just totally overrated because oh, it's just all like the same book over and over and over. But it's just, I can't get behind it. I can't. I just, all of these romance books to me all have like the bosom pounding and like the guy who's so sexy and far offish and he treats women like an oaf. I cannot abide by these old classics. You throw a
Okay.
vampire up in that joint and I'm ready. Got a werewolf in Jane Austen, I'm good, but mm-mm.
So, Twilight.
Oh my God. I was reading the book and I actually had to call my sister on one part because there was a part where like the girl Bella met up with the vampire Edward. And it was like all of this build up and build up and build up to sex and she's a virgin and all this other stuff. And then they go to Brazil and they're on this beach. And then next thing you know, the door closes and then she's pregnant. So I'm calling my sister and I'm just like, my pages are stuck together. Can you open the page for something in your Twilight book and tell me? And she was like, oh no, the pages are not stuck. I said, because she was like on the beach, and then I turned the page and she's pregnant. Like, what? What? She's just like, no, Tracy, you didn't miss anything. So I said, you don't know what you're talking about. So then I called my coworker. I'm like, okay, Jessica, listen, like I'm reading this book and I think the pages are stuck together. Can you just bring your copy to work tomorrow? And I'm at work trying to like read the pages apart. And she's like, no, they're not stuck, Tracy. There's just no sex there. Like they closed the door and then she's pregnant. What is happening? Stephanie Meyer, it's okay. But
And that is a full circle moment to our entire interview today. Oh my God.
yeah,
We're
full
here.
circle.
Final question, and then we're done because
I
I've laughed the whole
can't believe
time.
it.
Oh my gosh. So, okay, when you're dead and gone, and among the ancestors and one of the ancestors, what would you like someone to say about the legacy of words and work and funny ass stories that you left behind?
I just want them to say, she died happy. She was a happy person. Tracy was a good person. She tried to help everybody. No one listened to her. That's what's going to be on my gravestone. It's just going to say like, y'all finally listened. Period. I just I just want people to be proud of what I've done and the legacy that I leave behind. And I want people to like, just live. If I have one thing to say though, it's just to live life to the fullest because you just don't. I know people that get up and the first thing they do is complain. Oh, I can't believe this. And I'm like, listen, My grandma lived her whole life. My Both of my grandmas lived a full life. But my mother's mom, she had to have her eyes removed. So when I had another baby, she couldn't see her. She couldn't see my sister's kids. So she would pick her up and she would just rub her hair and rub her little face against hers because she couldn't see her. And I'm like, you wake up, you have sight, you have breath in your lungs, you have everything happening for you, and you're still complaining. Stop. Live every day almost like, I'm not saying go out and rob a bank, y'all. I'm just saying live every day like it's your last. Like enjoy every moment that you have because so many people complain and take everything for advantage. And when you're on your deathbed, ask yourself this question. Do you want to be sitting there going, well, I could have did this. Well, I could have did that. Or do you just want to go, you know what? It was a fun time. Good times had by all. Peace.
Hmm.
That is me. Just live it up. You want to get that tattoo? Go get the tattoo. But don't rob a bank.
I won't rob the bank, but I'm gonna go get the tattoo. I got two. I want another one. Thank you. This has been a balm for my soul. This was great. Thank you. Big thank you to Tracy Cross for being here today on Black and Published. Make sure you check out Tracy's debut novella, Rootwork, out now from Dark Heart. And if you're not following Tracy, follow her on the socials. She's at Tracy C. Writes on Twitter and Instagram. That's our show for the week. If you liked this episode and want more Black and Published, head to our Instagram page. It's at Black and Published, and that's BLK and Published. There, I've posted a bonus clip from my interview with Tracy about the stories she learned from her grandmother and how they're making their way into her fiction. Make sure you check it out and let me know what you think in the comments. I'll holla at y'all next week when our guest will be George McCalman, author of the book Illustrated Black History, honoring the iconic and the unseen.
So I gave myself this project, and as I was doing it, several friends said, oh, this should be a book. And Keisha, I was like, well, obviously this is already a book. And I looked around after I finished the project and I was like, are you all kidding me? This does not exist. And then honestly, I got mad. I knew that the reason it didn't exist is that nobody thought it was valuable enough to have a book that you could just buy and give that celebrated the accomplishments of Black pioneers.
That's next week on Black and Published. I'll talk to you then. Peace.